science and nature, and so everything in our cocktail program is kind of designated within that thin sliver of where those two meet. So this cocktail is a highball style. I was really inspired by making something that was Scotch based, so I'm using Johnny Walker Black. Inspired by using something that would be available to people who don't normally like Scotch cocktails. I think there's so much nuance around whiskey, and I feel like it's part of my job to help people with that. So I'm starting with 1 ounce of Johnny Walker Black. Move on to a ½ ounce of Fino Sherry, bringing out some of that salinity, a little savory notes. Now it is a highball style, so I think long, tall, I think refreshing. So instead of using something like soda, I'm using locally sourced birch water. Now this is just water that comes from the heart of the birch tree, really high in potassium. Not a crazy amount of flavor, but there's definitely these woody notes to it, and will work to lengthen our cocktail. I've also got bringing in a little bit of those foresty elements. This is a smoked tea cordial, so we smoke tea much like you would with Lapsang Souchong, but we smoke it with Canadian woods, so cherry wood and alder wood in particular. Turn that into liquids, extract a little bit of cedar tannins via sugar, and then acidify it just a touch. So I'm going to do 3/4 ounce of that. And then a wild foraged ingredient that we use here, because where we are is so nestled into the Pacific Northwest. I wanted to use some things that were wild foraged and allow me to kind of get out and explore nature a little bit before service. So this is a little bit of oak moss cordial. So that oak moss is pretty wild, pretty funky. Just using 1/4 ounce of that, and that's just going to bring out some earthy. I like to use the term petrichor, that kind of smell of the earth as it's raining, into that cocktail. Ice it up. And I'm just going to give it a good long stir. So this is a drink that, for me, was inspired by a lot of reading that I've been doing, particularly about trees and how they have a kind of a secret language and how they communicate. So this is trying to bring in as many different elements of tree as possible. Of course, you've got oak with the Johnny Walker as well as the Fino Sherry. You've got cedar. You've got birch water. You've got a little bit of alderwood and cherry wood, and then, like I said, that oak moss in there as well. So it ends up being very foresty, but has this light, kind of refreshing tone. I like to think of it as, a walk through the forest when it's raining, essentially. I'm just going to throw that into our glass here. We here at Botanist like to label our ice, so I've got an ice label there, just so you know you're not at a TGI Fridays or something like that. There we go. And I'm just going to finish that off, throwing it into the glass. And in addition, for our garnish, I've got amaranth flowers, which are locally grown here as well. And there you go. It is our Council of Trees. A lot of the reading that I've been doing about the land that I live on, there's a theory that there's a mycelial network, a fungal network that exists between trees to allow them to communicate to each other, send them signals to each other about what's going on and that kind of thing. And so I wanted to create a drink that kind of showcased how cool that is, but is also this long, tall, refreshing, elegant drink as well. When it comes to this cocktail, this one is really fun because, like I said, it's light and fresh, and I think people get turned off by the traditional style of whiskey cocktails. I love a Rob Roy. I love a Bobby Burns. It's one of my favorite cocktails. But to create something that is more applicable to different palates and showcases that whiskey can be made in different manners was something that I was really looking forward to. And I think this cocktail is really successful in that manner. Obviously, the whiskey and the Fino Sherry are there. The Fino brings that kind of savory note. That savory note's extended by the oak moss, but there's also a good dose of smoke and wood. So that smoke is coming from the smoked tea, of course. That the tea notes provide this kind of tannic structure, and then those wood notes coming through like all the other elements. So like I said, it's complex. There's a lot of different foresty notes to it, but I mean that's really what it is to walk through a forest. Anyways, you're getting all these different aromas and sensations when you're walking through a different patch of nature. So that's kind of the idea with that. Menu around every 3 to 4 months, so not a full changeover. We like to keep a little bit of stability, and we get people coming in that are really excited about a cocktail that's been on our menu for a while, and so it's we slowly transition them into a new phase with our menu. But when it comes to experimenting, I think that's a daily occurrence. Whether it's at the bar and people are asking for different cocktails, or I'm sitting down with members of my staff here and tasting through drinks and tasting through techniques and different ingredients and seeing how those are going to work. So that is really like a daily occurrence for sure.